about some club
Recording in
announcements.
progress.
And then we'll go ahead and Tony will introduce our speakers for the day. Okay.
Oh, I'm going first?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. Is that yeah.
Exactly.
Daryl Wilson, Chief Deputy Sheriff's Office. We're going to sheriff office 30 years. And, thank you for having me for this nice lunch. Thank you. And I've been knowing Tony, oh my goodness.
A long time.
Yeah, a long time. Yes, but
We won't
thank you.
say how long.
Yeah. we've been-
How many years?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
Don't worry.
Don't say
Don't
it.
fall for it. Don't fall for it.
When he was just the deputy.
Yeah, we've been looking a long time. All right, it's your turn now.
I'm Shannon Crabtree. I'm a director with Montgomery County Juvenile Court. I serve as the president of the Sheriff's Office PAL Board.
You say, wait,
What?
go ahead.
No, what, say PAL, what's PAL?
Police Athletic and Activities League.
And what do you do?
I'm the president.
What is PAL?
Well, we are a youth serving organizations trying to bridge the gap between our community and law enforcement.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Tony. So,
we did the account for the tax return.
Yeah, I was just
oh,
there.
yeah, okay, yeah, Dixie.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
I
Dixie.
worked
Oh,
with
yeah.
Austin.
Yeah.
Yes. It was very helpful.
Thank you. Thanks for
Yes.
the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Let me just say, so PAL's been around for years. It's where the police interact with the youth to kind of break that stigmatism that's going on. So the next to it, activities, athletics, that's why even the President's Club is very important that we partnership with other clubs to make sure that that goal is achieved. So at the end of the day, it's about police and youth coming together as mentors, mentees, stuff like that.
And you have a pretty good, you want them to talk about what's going on now or just do that later?
No, go ahead.
Your
about it now.
your
So our 7th annual Easter egg hunt that the sheriff does, we are doing that in the site of the old Arthur O. Fisher Park, which is now our fairgrounds.
Mhm.
So that is on April 16th. So if you would have seen in the newsletter, we have requested any club member donations for, something towards a continental breakfast or towards prizes. He likes to do a prize for each of the age groups. The opportunity to donate is open through the 8th of April. We serve through the hunt Jefferson Township, and I believe we're going to include Trotwood just to kind of increase our numbers this time. We have 3,000 eggs. Parents come sign up to be PAL kids and bring their baskets to collect our eggs and prizes. So it's a fun event.
so you need volunteers and donations.
We need donations, yes, either monetary or physical type of donations towards the prizes.
There's a link on the site, so if I would put it on Facebook or get it out to people.
I-
Make the donations.
I have not done a link to the site. Christine, I don't think we've done anything like that. We will push the flyer out on social media. But it is on the newsletter if you would have received from this, our flyer.
Rebecca, I sent you the newsletter.
Yes, okay.
Her contact information's in the newsletter.
Okay, that's good.
I'm Rob Streck. I'm the sheriff of Montgomery County. I've been the sheriff for 3 years now and with the sheriff's office going on 27 years.
My name is Rebecca Victor, and I'm with Little Miami Watershed Network.
Wow.
I'm excited to be and I'm the same as her, except my name is Hope Taft. But I'm with the Little Miami Watershed Network.
My name is Billy Anderson. I'm with Perry. That's the Public Employees Retirement Inc. Chapter 3, District 3, Chapter 6. And I'm the Vice President, not a Montgomery County retiree. I'm basically, my wife is retired, so I'm the county associate member.
Yes.
We're done.
Billy, thank you for sharing that.
So I'm representing the president. And the reason how, the way I became the vice president, no one else wanted to volunteer.
Of course.
So my wife said, okay, as an associate member, you can still be in office. So I went on and I took the vice president position. The retirement for representing Patrick, who's the president.
Thank you.
Well, great. We're glad to have you.
I'm retired from the federal government
Okay.
for 2 years.
Tony, let me ask you, so exactly what do you guys do? I'm sorry, maybe I missed that part, but what do you,
What do we do?
yeah, what do you?
Actually, we meet once a month, and basically, it's informational type meeting. Find out what's going on with the retirement.
Got
Things of that nature.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm John Calloway, serve as the treasurer for the President's Club. And in real life, I'm a CPA with Manning and Associates.
Your real life.
John, don't you belong to a club?
I belong to the Dayton Rotary Club and a member of the Knights of Columbus. And I serve on the National Alliance of Mental Illness. That board also serves for
Yes.
as a chapter. Yeah, you finished. Too much.
No, I am Kathy Ballman Parks. I am current secretary for the President's Club. I'm a member of Alpha International of Dayton, which is a service organization that's been in existence over 100 years. Our main focus, one of our main focuses is literacy. So our club, our two big current projects are at With God's Grace Free Pantry on North Dixie. We set up a free book nook for children, young adults, adults. Every time anybody comes in, they can take a free book. And we got a grant from International to help support that. The other thing that we're doing is we partnered with Dayton Children's for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, which just is phenomenal. But there are some where COVID hit when we were starting to try to look at other ways that we could assist with signing up kids. So what we started was, or Dayton Children started reaching out to post offices to see if the mail carriers would be willing to save books that they could not deliver. They're third-class mail, so they can't be returned to Dolly or Dayton Children's, they just get trashed. So we have right now about 11 post offices in Montgomery County that are willing to save the books. We go out once a month, pick up the books, and then we redistribute them to like Ronald McDonald House, the Care House, East End Community Center, YWCA. We have one person who's putting them in the little libraries that are scattered throughout the neighborhoods. So those are some of our big literacy projects.
I'm Tony Masood, and I'm currently governor-elect for the Civitan Club, which is in Ohio and West Virginia. And our motto is builders of good citizenship. And I'm also past president and vice president of the President's Club. I'm a member of the Miami Valley Military Association, which the President's Club and the Miami Valley Military Affairs Association has a golf outing May 7th, and it's at Beaver Creek, and we raise money for the Fisher House. The Fisher House is similar to the Ronald McDonald House, except it takes care of military families. And there are two of them on base and one at the VA hospital. And I'm also secretary for the Dayton Arab American Forum, which is also a member of the President's Club. And right now, we applied for a grant to help the Northwest quadrant of Dayton schools we're going to teach them Arab culture, because April is Arab Heritage Month for the state, for the city, and for the county. And I think that's it. I'm also a Knights of Columbus member.
I've had a few more hats.
Well, and I didn't brag about the fact that I'm past president of Twin Tig Incorporated, which has been around for about 45 years here in Dayton. And it's a group of women who started, one lady was the wife of a Tuskegee Airman, Grace Williams. Her husband, C.I. Williams, was a Tuskegee Airman. And over the past years, we air conditioned the Paul Lawrence Dunbar House, and we gave Stivers their bells. We have a project where we take musical instruments and we refurbish them for the schools, and we also give them grants for instruments, musical instruments. But we also have a scholarship, and our money is with the Dayton Foundation. And we give scholarships every year to high school seniors who are going into the arts, some aspects of the arts. And we've expanded that because we're in the fashion design now too. So they let us know, well, we're artists, so.
Some of them are.
Yeah, and one of my daughters won a scholarship. And then we give a scholarship every year, and then for that student's 4 years, if they apply every year, we will give them a recurring scholarship also. So that's something that we do. And I'm a real estate broker. My company is Priority Plus Realty, and I've been president of a lot of different real estate companies, so we don't have time for that. But anyway, I'm happy that everyone is here. And Tony, I'm excited. I want to hear about Hope Taft and what she's doing and what Rebecca's doing. I'm really excited about that.
Well, let me ask, you have two separate presentations or just one? Okay, you'll be first. Okay, I met Rebecca. Her bio is on the sheet here. And she was at one of the seminars that SCORE had. And when I introduced myself, I said, I'm with the President's Club. We're always looking for good speakers. And I asked Rebecca, she asked me, and I said, yes. And I followed up because I've heard our former First Lady, Ms. Taft, give a presentation at the President's Club a few years ago, and also at the Civitan Club. And it's great what they're doing in our community with the rivers and everything that they have as far as affecting our environment. So I'm going to let you go ahead and do the presentation.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very grateful to be here. So when I talk about the river, the first thing I want to ask you is this. How many of you in growing up played in creeks? Yeah, you played in creeks, you played in ponds, you played in water when it fell and puddled up, or you might have been a beach person on the ocean. But at some point, for many of us, water was a real important component of our growing up. And I mean, do you even recall some of the fun things that you did? I can remember turning over rocks in the creeks, and you watch I don't know if you call them crayfish or crawdads. I call them crawdads. Yeah. Okay. So I'd watch them scurry.
Yeah.
And then I tried to find another rock and they'd squirt. And then all of a sudden I knew this rock, and then hordes of little black fish, would take off about this long, minnows. And then they'd have toads, and they had all these little things. And I'd pick up, the bottom of the creek, and I would feel these little tiny pebbles that big, and I would marvel at the wonder of this type of experience for me. And as I became a mother, one of the greatest gifts, I didn't even know the Little Miami River existed. Okay, and here I was in Karen. We were mostly in the Great Miami, and of course we're from the South. So, but my experience was I got to teach my children that. At a year and a half, I'd take them on a trail and we'd walk down, and they got to climb, or they got to put their little hands in the sand by a sandbar. If you ever go down to the Narrows, a wonderful little place to take in a meadow, but it was a wonderful place where they got to play and they got to experience and wonder. And then they picked up creeks and played in those. And I don't know about you, but I caught my first fish in a creek. Anybody else? Yeah. What did you catch? Okay. Little fish. I bet you were pretty excited about it. I bet you were excited about it.
I think they were called minnows.
I caught we were down in Florida, my grandparents had a farm, and the creeks that in between the farms had fishing. So I wanted to go. I was like 4.5 and 5 on a start. So I said, Dad, take me fishing. And so, believe it or not, the proverbial bamboo fishing pole. Okay. And we stood over the edge and I dropped it and I caught my first bluegill about this big. I was so proud of myself. And I made my dad go back in the car and get, if you fish a lot, you have that big chain. I said, I'm gonna put mine on that. So he's like, you do this. I mean, the hook was as big as the fish,
Right.
But I was so proud of myself and taking it home to my mom and showing her. And from all those experiences, for me, developed a love. And not only to develop a love, it also developed the willingness to take care of it. From when I would sit and have a meal, and rather than chuck the stuff off to the side, I'd take a few extra steps that it would take to go and dump it in the trash. Or I'd keep my cup in my car instead of tossing it out the window. Or I would make sure that when I purchase something, I'm looking to see if I can recycle, or if I can bring, like Hope brings her own water. All these different things caused me to wonder, all because I fell in love with it. It had value to me. It mattered to me. And at the Little Miami Watershed Network, that's one of the things that we look to do in the work that we do. We are about caring for this river, keeping it healthy, keeping it vibrant, so that all life that's part of it has a chance to flourish. And so part of the process is falling in love. And then when we fall in love with it, we take care of it. We're willing to volunteer. And it's not like we have to. It's not like somebody looked and made us feel guilty. But it was more like you do it because, wow, let's be a part of this. And so that's a part of what our mission is to introduce people to this experience. So they're going to want to be a part of it because it matters. In addition, we do advocacy as well. We'll get out and we'll attend meetings, and like we have the solar panels going up all around in different counties. But in the counties that are near and dear to where the Little Miami Watershed Network is, we'll go and attend hearings where they've got issues as far as what is going to be the impact. We think solar energy, wonderful, right? But not necessarily. It might serve in one capacity, but it can be very destructive in another. Okay, all depending upon how you look at it. So these are some of the other pieces that we look at to help educate ourselves, to help step forth with the work that we do and make sure the voice of this river is heard. Because it starts here. And if we don't realize it, it makes its way down to the Ohio. And the Ohio is the most polluted river we have in the United States. And that comes from mining, it comes from agriculture, but the simple ways that we can start to make a difference will start to add up, and they have added up. When Hope began this with the Little Miami River Cleaners with some companions back in 2010, there was a love that drew a passion to do that. But it also came out of a gentleman who long before that had a passion, Glenn Thompson, who was part of the Daily or the Journal, Daily Journal, who was really understanding the gift. How many of you in COVID went outside just to get in nature? Because of the stress. Okay, it just kind of seemed to. And when you take kids out, it's amazing the impact of being in nature. And it's something that I work with my children today. We would go out and walk in nature, even when there was difficult conversations, and we were doing this. It's like you, me, car, river. Okay, and then we would talk and things would come out. So there's great power in the environment. And so my part in this communication with you is to help you reconnect for those of you who had that, so that you can see the value of it. And in the process of seeing that, allow us, if you know of people who are looking to learn more, then we would love to be able to come and talk to you. We've got a lot of different programs. And the one that I want to introduce you to, and Hope we'll talk about another in a moment, is what we call the River Speaks, more than just rocks and water. And it's where we had volunteers that interviewed people. And we have over 40 interviews that we've selected some of those, and we put them in video. And the video runs, we have one at 30 minutes, one at 20 minutes, and then one that runs anywhere from 6 to 10 minutes, depending upon the time that we have allotted. So what I love about that is that you get to see these pictures of this river and there's music, and it's like, oh, and then you get stories. And so in that, again, we're just introducing people to what it means to be part of helping to create a healthy and vibrant river system and a healthy environment watershed. Because it's amazing for me to realize that I am miles away from the Little Miami watershed, the Little Miami River. But everything that I do in my yard goes into sewer. If it is not into the ground, then it makes its way to the river. So I have to be wary of what I put on my lawn and all those types of things. So that's why they say it's better to do your car at a car lot, versus in your yard, you think, because they're equipped to handle the discharge of the water with the soap and stuff. So that's why they encourage that. So I just wanted to share that part for me. And I want to introduce Hope Taft, who is actually the creator of this organization, co-creator, and a woman of, I tell you what, man, you want energized running plus. So I'm going to let her share, because one of the things that we did as she's getting up to get ready is that we realized that all these lovely things are great, but a lot of people want to know how it's going to do this. All right. And so what we have done is worked with our organization has worked with Ohio State to do an economic study so that we can provide businesses and communities with the understanding that to take care of our river is an economic value. So,
So after Rebecca's gotten you motivated to love the river, any river, they all need help, whether it's the Great Miami or the Little Miami. I often think of the Little Miami as sort of the stepsister of the Great Miami because Montgomery is so much bigger than Greene County. And, there is that little river over there. And one day I was at the Visitors and Convention Bureau of Greene County, and I said, well, I'm interested in the river. How many people are using the Little Miami River, enjoy it? They couldn't tell me. So that led me to believe that maybe the Little Miami Watershed Network should do something about that. And another thing helped me realize that too. If all the water in the world could be reduced to what you could drink, it would probably fill this gallon jug. And if you took that, this is all the fresh water. If you took that, what you could drink would fill this teaspoon. So we really need to remember, like Becky said, to take care of our water. Once it's gone, it's gone. And research shows that, fortunately not on me, that you can live 3 weeks without food, but only 3 days without water. Water is really important to all of us, whether we realize it or not. It's one of God's gifts to us. It's all around us. We think it will never run out. If you go to California, if you go to Arizona, you realize it can run out. You go to the Colorado River, it doesn't even reach the ocean anymore because it runs out. So we really need to take care of it and think about it. And if you don't want to think about the emotional joy it's given to you in all your life, with our video that we have, Facts and Water, the River Speaks, think about the economic value it is to us, and then speak up for the river any way you can. We're just finishing up a study with Ohio State University on the recreational value of the Little Miami River in Greene and Warren counties. And on the handout that Rebecca's going to pass out, we'll have a link. And that link will take you to the registration for the free webinar that we're going to have on the 22nd of this month, where the professor at OSU who has helped us with this is going to explain how we got the information and how and what that means to the area. But just to give you a little tip off, we surveyed 32 sites. We had volunteers that came out and spent over 1,000 hours monitoring these 3 times a week on a randomized basis so that the researchers could take it and extrapolate it. And they would put flyers on the car window, which would ask the person to use the QR code to do a short survey to tell us why they were there and what they were doing. And it was amazing what we found. People have made over 800,000 trips in 1 year to just those two counties to do recreational things along the river corridor. Now, that's a lot of people.
Mhm.
That's more than Green County has. I suspect, I haven't looked that up, but I should, because I suspect that's more than the population of Green County. And that they have spent over $9 million in that year to get there and to buy things there and to do things there. So it is a great economic driver of the area that people totally undervalue, just like they undervalue all the other eco services that nature gives to us for free, whether it's the river or whether it's trees or whether it's any kind of thing that you can think of that feeds the pollinators, who feed the food, the crops, who feed the food, who make the food that we can eat and enjoy in movies like this. So we hope that you will speak up for the river, that you will ask us to speak to your groups about the river, and that we can work together to formulate ways to help other people fall in love with the river and to protect it. And when you all were talking about the PALS program, I immediately jumped to some of the things that will be on the back of the handout that Rebecca has for us. There are ways that adults and children can involve themselves together in cleaning up the river, in paddling the river, in walking the bike trail, in doing a lot of things that can help everyone realize what a wonderful asset we have in our community and how they too can get involved and speak up for the river. It's really important. Once it's gone, it's gone. And the more hardscape we get in our area, the more we have flooding. Because the hardscape is like a rooftop or a parking lot, and the water just runs right off with the pollution. The first flush is the most polluted, and that's what goes right down into all those storm drains that we don't think about because they're on the curb. But once the water gets down in there, it's like it's an underground river that is encased in concrete, and it goes lickety split right down to the creek or the river without a chance to slow down, without a chance to have roots purified, without a chance for it to invigorate our aquifer. And those things are really important for giving us clean water and providing us with a renewable resource. That you all will join us any way you can and have us come and talk to the group, and we can show the film. We hope to have a little PowerPoint on the economic value of the river so that we can do things that we have never done before, which is really bring home the value of this asset in our region.
It's just 12:30, and let's take 5 minutes to just ask questions quickly. One is, what are the boundaries of the Little Miami River?
Okay, the Little Miami River is the longest state national river and state and national scenic river in Ohio. It's the first, and it is it and its watershed. I was talking to the sheriff about Beaver Creek and Little Beaver Creek. They're part of the Little Miami River watershed because they flow right into the river. And if you think about Town and Country Shopping Center, that's the outer edge of the Little Miami River watershed. That's where part of the river flows to the Great Miami, and another part of water would flow to the Little Miami. In fact, we have a speaker who says, if you have a cup of water and you pour it on one side of the street at the Phrase, it'll go to the Little Miami. If you pour it on the other side, it'll go to the Great Miami. So that's how far over from the Little Miami, which is in Greene County, that the watershed goes on that side. On the other side, it goes out to about London. So it's pretty I should have brought a picture. Is what I should have done.
Yeah.
Next time I will. If I had my slides, I would need to have a picture. But it's very diverse. If you think about the Little Miami River, it flows from Clifton, which is a pretty rural community. It's the most beautiful part of the river because it has the first gorge, the first of 4 gorges. The Little Miami River is very unique because it has 4 gorges. Rivers only have one at the headwaters.
Mhm.
So it flows from there, comes down through the Narrows, comes down through Bellbrook and Spring Valley, on down through Lebanon, on down through Morrow, and ends up in the Great Miami River, just a little past Milford. And the west side of the river is almost fully developed. And has a lot of hardscape in it because you have Cincinnati at one end and you have the Dayton, Xenia Nexus on the other end. But the east side of the river is very agriculture because there's a lot of farmland over in Greene County. So it's really a double barrel disaster for the river,
Mhm.
so to speak, because they get a lot of nutrient runoff from the farms
Mhm.
with the fertilizers and the pesticides.
Mhm.
But they're now finding that they get just as much nutrient runoff from residential lands. Because farmers are very careful how they use their fertilizers. It's a big expense for them. But you and I, we just go to Lowe's, buy a bag and come out and spread it in our yard and think, well, if a little bit is good, a lot better. Well, that's not really the case.
Mhm.
But so it gets it from both sides.
Mhm.
And the more hardscape you get, the quicker the runoff is. So even the runoff on the west side is really faster than the runoff on the east side. And that runoff creates a lot of sediment going into the water. It creates a lot of bank erosion, and it creates a lot of pollution that goes into the water. And you know those leaves that we don't think any back about, or that's grass clippings that go down the water,
Mhm.
down the drain, that slowly decays and uses up oxygen. And when you lose up oxygen in the water, then your fish die, but you also get the algae blooms.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about.
Mhm.
And even though you don't think the Little Miami has any algae blooms, it does.
And how long is your presentation? When you,
It can be any length that you'll give us.
okay.
It's like, yeah, we can do a
So how long are the
video.
slides and the videos?
Of the video, we have a 6-minute version, we have a 20-minute version, and we have a 30-minute version. And
Okay.
what we hope to do after the economic study comes out is to have a short combination of both. So that within 30, 45 minutes, we can give you a few words and a lot to look at.
Now, do you all ever go to the schools to talk about this, to talk to teenagers and, or even elementary school kids to talk about the river and water and the preservation of it? And do you do anything like that?
We do, we'll tailor it, our talk to the audience. We have something called an enviroscape, and it's like a plastic landscape with farm and house and rivers and roads and things. And we get the kids involved in putting little animals and trees and cars in various spots on it. And then we have the rain come. And we show what happens after they put fertilizer on the ground or after they have, the cow has pooped. You know?
Uh-huh.
And so they get a real sense of how we all work together, how the whole universe and environment work together. And if you put pollution, if you put stuff on the ground, then it'll eventually end up in the water. And then it goes back to the clouds and it comes back down to rain, acid rain, or whatever the situation is. We have a lot of programs where we invite families or children and guardians to join us so that we can get them on the river. We can have them hike along the bike trail and learn the history of the area, or we can bicycle along the trail. There's just lots of things that's ways that we work with groups and with people to try to make an interaction
Mhm.
and get them exposed to something they've never been exposed to.
And my last question is, why is the Miami River the most polluted river?
The Ohio
You mean
River.
I mean, the Ohio River, yeah.
It's mining operations,
Yeah.
from mining operations that make its way in, not only from the state of Ohio, but you've got Kentucky, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and you have West Virginia. So you have all of that feeding in, Bethlehem, Steel, I think some of
Yeah.
that, and it all comes in, hits the Ohio, then makes it way, and then you end up with a dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico.
Which is about, some years, it's about the size of Texas. And they all know that the Mississippi watershed takes up 3/4 of the United States. And you see it all funnel down to the Gulf. And so you know that what happens up in the outreaches of the watershed is the start of it, and it all floods down. And so the federal government is really working with people up in this part of the watershed to do something about it. And we have gotten what they call a 9-element grant from the Ohio EPA to work with Beaver Creek and Little Beaver Creek, so that they have projects that are shovel ready, so that when funding from H2O, Ohio funds, or the federal government funds are available, they are available to apply for them and are right ready to get to them. That's why I was asking the sheriff about flooding areas, because I have a suspicion that's going to be one of the big issues that people that live in the Beaver Creek and the Little Beaver Creek watershed come up with. Yeah, Riverside's going to be, yeah.
Ms. Taft, real quick, I'm sorry. This is not a question, maybe a comment, if you can maybe answer real quick. So this whole issue had a lot of light from St. Mary's with that runoff. So then at one point, this was like, we got to stop this because then we shut down St. Mary's. And so lakes and rivers, is that pretty much the same thing as far as the solution, trying to say, look, this is the bigger problem than just St. Mary's, but it's also happening in our.
And it's also happening up around Toledo.
Okay, that's right.
They couldn't drink water.
Yeah, oh yeah, right.
And we really don't want to be like Flint,
Oh,
Michigan.
no, no,
Oh, my
no.
gosh.
Right, right.
You know, so we
Okay.
really need to take care of our water.
Yeah, okay.
And how we use it and what we do,
Yes, ma'am.
and let it recharge. You know, part of the problem out west is they're draining the aquifer faster than they can refill.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I saw a documentary where there were lakes and rivers and it's all dry.
Yeah.
Totally gone.
Yeah.
And
The Great Salt Lake is shrinking.
yeah,
You think about the Salt Lake.
Sea is shrinking out west.
yeah.
And another thing you want to think about, which really scares me, and I haven't figured out what to do about it yet, but maybe you guys have got some ideas. But, you know, when Bob was governor, they had the Great Lakes Compact. They got all 8 states and provinces that are around the Great Lakes to agree on a common compact. And one of the parts of that was that if you wanted to ship water out of that watershed, out of the Great Lakes watershed, you had to get permission from all the other groups. So that water was pretty much protected and it will stay in the watershed. Now, Ohio, the Great Lakes watershed is very small. If you think of Summit County, that's about the high point between the lake watershed and the Ohio watershed. So most of Ohio is in the Ohio watershed. Now, there's nothing that says that as a private citizen, I could drill a well on my land and ship all the water that I can get out of that well to someplace else.
My individual company.
Yeah.
So that's.
So it could go, our water could go out west, but it also could go to Iran, Iraq, or Russia. One of the big reasons for the Ukrainian war is that Ukraine sits right on the Black Sea.
The Black
It's
Sea.
open year round.
Mhm.
It's got a lot of oil down there, but it's also access to the sea that's free all year round. But they also are the sole water source for Crimea. And there's a big canal that connects water in Ukraine with the water in Crimea. And so the Ukrainians shut off that canal. So Crimea is really hurting the water. And Crimea is really under Russian influence. So to my way of thinking, that's really the first of the many water wars we're going to have in our country. It's all over the water.
So part of the big stuff too is not only to share the issues that we have, but they're significant. But sometimes when these issues get so huge and so big, you know what to do about it? So what do? I don't know about you, but I shut down. So part of what we do is also provide ideas, provide simple ways that people can start to get involved, and start to make a difference, so that you don't feel like Atlas trying to carry the planet. So, and not only our agency, our network, but a host of other environmental agencies. You've got soil and water conservation in every county that has experts that will come out and work with you. You have, ODNR, Ohio Division of Natural Resources. You have, where's the other, ODNR, OEPA, and they're just a plethora. So that if you're,
MCD.
yes, NCD. Yeah. So if you are, we want you to know that there's a lot of people that have a lot of information that, first of all, they're easy to connect with, and they're very willing to offer any kinds of ideas or tell you different ways that you can kind of make a positive difference. So,
Thank you so much. This has really been enlightening. I knew it would be interesting, but this has really been enlightening.
I'm going to pass
So-
this around with some information. I'm sorry, when I copied it, I forgot to copy it long form, so it's kind of like a rotating. You got to flip the sheet and whatever. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
If I can have one more minute?
1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute. I want to read you what Glenn Thompson, who was the editor of the Journal Herald, wrote about the Little Miami River and its watershed in 1968. And this will give you sort of an idea of the length and the beauty of the river.
Okay.
There is no more beautiful a piece of America's natural history and environment than the Valley of the Little Miami. Started in Clark County, where the river rises and flows through fine rolling farm country to the Greene County line. Then suddenly it plunges into the Cedarville Dolomite and into the beautiful Clifton Gorge. After John Bryan State Park, it flows among the willows and its low hills through some of the most historic country in the Middle West. Tecumseh was born in an Indian camp near its bank in 1768. And Old Town was the Shawnee city of Old Chillicothe, containing thousands of Indians at times, and possibly the largest Indian village in our country. At the Narrows above Bellbrook, she flows at times in deep cuts made by the Wisconsin Glacier when the stream flowed not south but north. Below Spring Valley, she has peace and quiet for a while and then plunges through the Fort Ancient Narrows, cut when the Wisconsin Glacier blocked drainage westward and turned loose a torrent of melting ice and bones. Here she passes Fort Ancient, which was constructed by prehistoric Hopewell Indians before 300 BC. From Morrow, she turns westward to South Lebanon in the bed of the prehistoric Lebanon Creek, which flowed into what is now the Great Miami 17,000 years ago. When the glacier dammed it, the waters of the Miami cut the Kings Mills Narrow, another beautiful section. Up and down the valley, some of the great figures of the frontier movement. At Old Chillicothe, Daniel Boone was brought as a captive, and here he escaped. Here Simon Kenton ran the gauntlet in one of the incredible 8 times he survives. As rivers go, it is very much the way today as it was when Boone and Kenton drank from it, but its fate is now at stake.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
That was really nice. Thank you.
In the essence of time,
Okay, so now,
we have Sheriff Rob Streck. All of his information is in the back of the agenda.
his vanity project.
I've known,
My assistant takes very good care of me.
take as much time as you need.
Not a popular opinion where we're standing, but it drives me nuts that we're shooting water from our aquifer in a large fountain as people can drive by and look at it. Drives me insane. I always say, I hope someday in history they don't talk about our drinking water that got shot in the air for 15 years and we start having issues with it. Drives me nuts. So I am the sheriff of Montgomery County, been there 3 years. If we were up to staff, would be up to 505 employees at this point. So we are the largest law enforcement agency until you get over to Franklin County or down to Hamilton in this area. So we have a lot of employees. We have a lot of things. We do a lot that a lot of people don't even realize. A lot of just think about the sheriff and deputies out in cars and then the jail, but we actually do all kinds of things. So I was asked to talk about, I have a speaker series. In the past, the sheriffs would just grab me up and say, okay, we're going to the President's Club, and they'd stand up, say hi, and then they'd be like, okay, Rob, talk about something. So when I became the sheriff, I actually came up with whatever of the main things that people were asking us to talk about and have a, kind of have an idea of what we were talking about. So that's what we have, and we can send this out, but we're more than happy to go on weekends at night to meetings and talk about some of the stuff that people are interested in. The first thing one of the things we talk about is general safety and awareness. This is everything from when you get in an elevator by yourself to when you're walking into your car in the parking lot, when you're in your home, if it's younger people, what do you do when somebody's knocking on your door and you don't know who they are? So this presentation deals with all of those things and gives people an idea of how to handle it. Obviously, we're not teaching self-defense in this presentation, but we are giving some ideas of what to have with you and how to deal with situations like that. So that's a real good one. An important one we have is how to keep your kids safe online. Online is the greatest thing and the worst thing. And obviously, and I was guilty of it. My kids had cell phones when they were young, probably much younger than I would like to now, but we kind of gave them. And so you can get to anything on cell phones, on tablets, on computers. So this is for parents to tell them how to protect their child online. Anywhere from, just viewing pornographic sites to where individuals are trying to meet up with them and lure them to different locations. So that's that presentation. We talk about modern trends in drug use, which is always changing. We get asked to do that one a lot also. But as you know, if you're from here, 3-4 years ago, we were talking about heroin all the time. Now we're talking about meth all the time. And this one goes drug by drug, how it's kind of made, what it's used for, and what it does to our community. Then we do the 2022 Sheriff's Office initiatives. Those were kind of my goals and my chief's goals of what we need to do in the community. We have a huge mental health issue. I'm a very big advocate trying to get mental health assistance. So that's one of our big thing. I have a problem with my county jail. Always a big topic, a very controversial topic, which is over the next year, I'm sure you'll hear about it much more. But that's something we're dealing with. And then of course, we have a violence issue right now. It is very bad when it comes to gun violence in our community right now. So those are some of the things that we're really focusing on as an office and as a law enforcement agency. The biggest one we get asked to go do, and we did 5 of them last week alone. This is split up between me and my IT director because I really can't even keep up with them. But it is fraud and scams for older adults. Obviously, we can do it for every age group because it's every age group. But it's estimated that our older adults, when we get to 59 and older, are losing about $10 billion per year on scams. And they actually believe that it's 60 billion because people are afraid to report it. They're embarrassed. So when somebody gets scammed, as far as law enforcement go, it's one of the hardest crimes to prove because it's usually happening from overseas somewhere, or if it is from an organized crime syndicate in the country, it's being sent through so many IP addresses, you just can't find who the suspect is. And if you do, the ability to get that money back for some of these individuals is next to impossible. The best way to combat it is getting the education out there for people. This is Christine Bevins, my media director. I always have somebody follow me around with a camera. It took a lot to get used to.
See, with your
Just
PR
like this.
person,
I know. But we talked about the other day, several times a month, she has to put something out saying the sheriff's office is not calling you and telling you to bring Kroger's gift cards or we're going to come and arrest you. So that's why that one is so important, because we all laugh about some of these scams and fraud that we hear, but yet we're still doing it. We get on the phone with somebody who's very good, and you think that they are talking to the IRS or the sheriff's office or any of these other things. So if you ever have an interest in hearing about that, or having, whether it's neighborhood groups, whatever it is very important. And then the last one is teen drug use and trends in teen drugs. The teen drug stuff changes from the adult stuff. So that's why we have even a special focus on it. A lot of times parents aren't even aware that their teenagers are getting stoned right in front of them nowadays, because they think that they just like the flavors of the vape pen, when in reality they could be putting, 68 to 91% THC in their system because it's odorless. And there's a lot of basements nowadays with kids playing Xbox and PS5 and all this other stuff, where they're sitting down with these vape pens and things like that, getting high as a kite, and people don't realize it anymore because they're used to 20 years ago where weed smelled like weed and things like that. So that's just one of the issues. And then the easy way it is to get edibles and some of the other things into your home. So those are what we talk about. We can send this out to you, Tony, if you want to send it to the group. But like I said, whether it's the chief going and talking, or my IT director, or myself, we're more than happy to get out and talk about these things, because if we don't talk about them, people a lot of times don't realize it's going on as bad as it is in our community. So with that, I can answer any questions, or
Send me the Word document. I'll put it in the
Yeah, I
newsletter.
will. Definitely.
So I have a question.
Okay.
So now with this new law that was just signed, where anybody can carry a gun,
Uh-huh.
so now how is that going to suppress the gun violence issue?
We don't know. We know that there are many other states that have constitutional carry. So we don't think there's going to be melees in the street or anything like that. We have hundreds of thousands of individuals in Ohio carrying already. They do have their license. But it does bring up some concerns when it comes to background checks. So I'll tell you right now, every morning when I go in, the first two things I do is, unfortunately, I have to deal with liens for foreclosures. And then the second thing I have to do is I sign all the denials or revocations for people with CCW license. So that will be
Deny
gone.
it. Yeah, so that's gone.
So that's all gone. So if I sign a revocation for a license and chief makes a stop like he did this morning coming in, I know, I said, oh, somebody upset him, but the computer would tell him that individual has it revoked or has a CCW. So those are the concerns we have as law enforcement. And then we just hope people get training. I am a huge Second Amendment person. I am really what we call in the world a gun whacker. I have lots of guns. Me and my sons shoot competition. We're big Second Amendment people, but the fear is lack of training and things like that. You can't just go out to a gun shop, buy a gun, and know how to load it. They're just complicated devices.
They are. They're very complicated, and I took the class, and I went to try to get my CCW or whatever it's called, but they were locked. The door was locked. It was COVID time or whatever, and I never made an appointment. Now don't need an appointment. But, and I don't mind people having guns, but really, for Niraj Natani to say this is about a woman who works every day and she needs to have protection and she doesn't have time for class and all of that. I mean, it's bigger than all of that. And so I don't understand how you guys, and I'm not here to litigate anything, because it's fine, a gun proponent, that's fine, but people do need to be screened, and that's my fear, is that people who need to be screened, who you talk about mental illness, It's such a big problem. And a mentally ill person can now go and buy a gun and carry it and do whatever, react whenever they
That was
want.
happening.
And the problem is there's some problems with the law too that we hope get settled.
We know the answer.
People who wrote the law were not, it conflicts with about 3 other laws in Ohio. So the last we heard, and we haven't heard if it's been resolved yet, you can constitutional carry in 90 days whenever it takes effect, but you can't be in a car with it because of another law we have. So there's also issues out there that we hope they get resolved.
Oh.
Because if you may think you're doing something fine and a state trooper pulls you over, knows how you state trooper. State trooper pulls you over, and next thing you know, you're being arrested when you thought you were perfectly legal doing what you were doing. So there's some issues with it.
Now, did this law get rid of background checks?
No,
Right, I mean, so.
Not the
it's just-
purchase, but carry.
Purchase.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're right.
so I can still, I mean, there's still that safeguard
That's the
of,
Brady
I
Bill.
just can't go and buy a gun.
Ready, Bill.
Not
I
a
can
not a
carry
new
it.
firearm or from a shop,
Right.
but we
But I
all
can
know there's a
carry
lot
it
of
without-
private
Right.
Oh,
private purchases.
yeah.
going on. But yeah,
You
that
can get
that's still in
anything
place.
anywhere.
It's just, you don't
Okay.
have to go to a class and then come to your local sheriff's office anymore.
but one question, if you buy from a private person,
Okay.
you have to have it registered, right?
No, you can go on the street next to the town, buy this gun.
That's dangerous.
And you can still make those guns with those machines at home.
3D printing.
3D printing.
Somebody wants one.
Mhm.
And
It makes it difficult for
I
the
got from the
police.
standpoint of the officers that are out there trying to do the right thing and not knowing that you don't have
There
to
we
say,
go.
I have a gun in my car.
There we go.
Yeah,
You walking up to a car.
Which is the
an
challenge,
officer-
even a challenge for us now that you hear on the news.
Right.
Yeah.
So with all this gun stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm saying that with all our enforcement across the country, you got to be a concern when it basically gets down to when is enough? And then when you look at these rifles that they're carrying, that I used to use over Vietnam, those are killers. It's not for animals, it's not for hunting, but they're there for kill people. All these
A
automatic rifles.
lot of people in
A
a
lot of people.
short period of time.
Right, and we got so many of these school shootings, but we got the gun enthusiasm. I don't have a problem with Second Amendment, but enough is enough. When are we gonna make it your job a lot easier? When you can walk up to somebody and smile. But every officer I see walking up to the car, the hair is rising up on their neck. They don't know what they're gonna get. And they don't have to look like me. We got people out here now with a lot of mental issues.
Yeah.
They're not registered. They're walking beside us, they're not neighborhoods, but, the conditions that we've gone through the last 2 years,
A lot of stressors.
a lot of stress out there. So you all got to deal with that stuff. And I'm saying, are y'all hollering and screaming and saying, no, we don't need this?
Yeah, I wanted to know, did they refer to you for input or anything? It's just crazy.
There is no enforcement organization, whether it's the Ohio Association of Chiefs of Police, the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association, the troopers, and I believe even the Ohio prosecutors, all did not endorse this bill at all. So the lawmakers did not come to anybody and ask. They did whatever they thought that their
I'm sure-
constituents wanted.
I'm sure Representative Plummer was against it.
Well, you got to ask him.
That might be a trick question.
Yeah, that's a trick question. But
No, actually, for Phil's defense, Phil's all for the law, but he actually got in, he had a lot of his own party speak out against him because he publicly said there should be something with training and you should be able to tell law enforcement, just those two things. And that, he met a lot of opposition with that statement. So it's a pretty touchy subject in the House right now.
That's unfortunate. That really is.
Well, on the fraud and whatever for older adults, and even though I'm one of those older adults that think, just on the computer, I clicked onto something, this was a week or so ago, and
What you say?
something popped up that said Microsoft had locked my computer. And looked like Microsoft, little four color and whatever, perfect. And I'm like, call this number, and I'm trying to X out of it, and I can't X out of it. And I didn't, so I talked to my husband, and he said, just shut it off. And so we took it into Office Depot where I got it, and he said this was a ransomware
Yeah.
scam.
Mhm.
That if I had called that number, then they would have locked my computer and wanted money from me to reopen it.
Wow.
So, I mean, and he goes, just that whole idea of Microsoft will never do this.
You're right.
But they look, not even somebody talking on the phone, having all those persuasion skills and manipulation abilities. Here you have this on the computer. It looks like, so it was just
Yeah,
amazing. Don't.
That's a very big part of it is between emails and pop-ups and links and things like that.
See, that's a
But
good
with
program
pop-
to have for your.
But
club.
with
Yeah.
pop-ups, if you hit
Yes.
control,
Oh, I'm
alt-
sure.
you hit control,
IT guys
alt,
have
delete,
presentations.
Yeah,
control,
tried
alt,
to do that.
delete.
to go to task manager and then to get rid of it. If
It
nothing would-
wouldn't do it.
So I just had to
Hmm.
hard turn it off, took it to, Nolan at Office Depot but being by boom, it became less, but just.
But with what he's saying too about scam.
Well, you have a lot of good programs.
Oh, yeah.
Try to get word out.
Think that people.
And one you didn't touch on was sex abuse and trafficking. That's another big program you have.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
Tornado took kind of care of the North Dixie Strip.
It's still there.
Well,
We-
some, but not us.
We started a human trafficking task force now. It's actually working really hard right now because of the first four.
Oh.
They just made many arrests for that.
What?
But yeah, so when you get
Are
sports
you
events like it, it
serious?
brings people in and they do bad things when they're away from their families, so. But yes, we do have that. We have, I have a person named Tanya Folks, who is pretty much the expert on human trafficking in this area. And she is glad to go to anywhere. It's her passion in life and she's very good. So we all.
Include that on your list.
It's very big here, because isn't it because of 75 and 70,
Yes.
70?
It's an interchange.
It's big everywhere. We have a lot of people in our county and anywhere there's a lot of hotels and restaurants, unfortunately, that stuff occurs, so. It's
There's a not-for-profit organization that strictly works on that, Oasis.
yeah, Oasis is a partner of our task force.
Mhm.
Wow,
They're located on
it's
North
just so much.
Dixie. They have-
And do you
Well,
have any
yeah,
say
yeah.
on
No,
the darkening of windows?
I think they're over. in-
Car windows?
Yeah, because I've often
East
thought that was
Okay,
probably one of the major hindrances for someone. in
You
law
know, I don't
enforcement to have
understand
dark
why, but
windows.
there's almost no enforcement of tint windows, even my own deputies anymore, so. I mean, if you see the cars out there nowadays,
You can't see anything.
everything's
It's like, wow, man, they're walking up, I'd say.
And you don't even have to have front license plates.